I sold my iPhone 14 Pro and bought this, Google's latest flagship, the Pixel 7 Pro. And today I'm gonna give you my honest thoughts on this device after having used it for a couple of days. After being slightly disappointed by the iPhone 14 series weak launch, I decided to give something a little bit more compelling a run for its money. I was just getting tired of the same phone. Even if it is just a secondary device for me, it felt like money well wasted. So when the Pixel 7 Pro was announced, I was quite excited because I've never actually had hands-on with one of the Pixel flagships. The only Pixel phone that I've tried has been the Pixel 6a, and before that, the only Google phone that I've owned was the Nexus 5 that came out in 2013. So when it comes to the Pixel 7 Pro, I'm looking at it as a complete newcomer, not only to Google's latest flagship, but to Android 13 as well. And upon my first impressions, I was quite happy with it. The phone was nicely rounded and smooth, and despite having a 6.7-inch display, because of how it rolls off into your hands, it feels a little bit easier to hold. I would say that it feels pretty similar to the S22 Ultra, but instead of having the sharp corners, it feels a little bit more playful. That being said though, I'm kind of disappointed to see Google going with a non-textured glass. Although it makes the phone easier to hold, it makes the phone feel and look cheap. And I only say that because the glass feels exactly like the Pixel 6a, and the Pixel 6a was made entirely out of plastic. But what is nice to see is the camera housing, or the visor as some people like to call it, is now a part of the frame, making it a sleek one-piece housing. It gives the phone a more substantial look, and aside from what others may think, I think it's pretty unique and it adds a lot of character. It also helps when it comes to supporting the phone if it's on a table, because the camera housing spans across the entire rear of the device. It's super stable and it sits flat, which is something that can't be said about almost all of the latest flagships. That's not a big deal to me, but I thought I'd mention it. Let's talk about the performance though. But quickly though, I noticed that most of you watching aren't subscribed. So if you're watching this video, it would mean a lot if you could just hit that subscribe button and perhaps leave a like on the video, because it really does help out the channel a lot. Anyways, inside of the new Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro is this year's Google Tensor G2. All in all, it's quite similar to last year's Tensor, except it's clocked a little bit higher and it actually has a better GPU, which will help in graphics intensive workloads and for gaming. But when it comes down to the performance, I can't help but mention it gets absolutely obliterated by the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 and Apple's A16 Bionic. But that isn't what Tensor is all about. The Tensor G2 is a much smarter chip, and it solves all of the Pixel's hardware shortcomings with machine learning. And it does that quite well. The new Tensor G2 is about 60% faster and 20% more efficient when it comes to machine learning tasks than the previous Tensor found in the last year's Pixel 6 series. This allows the Pixel 7 to do things that would be considered voodoo magic a couple of years ago. The ability to transcribe voice memos quickly and accurately as soon as you receive them, using Google Assistant to direct your calls so you can have your phone talk to the person on the other line if you're not available, or you're just trying to filter out spammers. And if you're in the US, you can use Direct My Call to skip through any annoying, tedious menu options when phoning into a support line. Please Google, bring this to Canada because we really need this. You can even use dictation to send emojis just by saying the name of them. Now, these features may not seem like a huge deal to you, but after using the Pixel for just a couple of days, this is a game changer. I find myself sending most of my messages through dictation now because I can actually trust it. I don't feel like I have to constantly look at the message and edit it, which made the whole process super annoying and defeated the purpose of dictation, which is something that I've had to do in pretty much every other device, including the iPhone. Photo Unblur lets you restore memories that you may have captured quite poorly. Magic Eraser is even better, allowing you to remove distractions or contents from images that ruin your shot. And it's things like that that I can just truly appreciate, and over time they'll just become more and more useful. I feel like there's still a ton to explore with the Pixel. But circling back to the performance for a second, it's not an underpowered phone by any means. It does everything from gaming, browsing, scrolling through social media, and just doing everything that you would do on a smartphone, and it does it quite well. The benefit of the Tensor G2 not having to scale itself up year over year in terms of performance is nice because it doesn't have to overburden the device. This means that your phone doesn't get too hot, it doesn't even get warm to the touch. Not only that, but it makes the phone much more efficient, so when it comes to battery life, you should see longer battery life when doing things like playing games. But let's not forget about these cameras. When it comes to video, you can do 1080p 30 or 60 as well as 4K 30 or 60. There's also a lot of fun modes like the new cinematic mode that they introduced, which is pretty nice, but I don't find it super useful since they do limit it to 1080p. I did find the images out of this camera to be absolutely stunning though. The exposure and dynamic range is incredible. The detail and sharpness is there, and because it uses machine learning and a bunch of tricks, when you zoom in digitally, it'll actually use multiple cameras in the phone and combine it into one image. But don't just take my word for it. The Pixel 7 Pro was ranked #1 globally for the best smartphone camera by DxOMark. And I think that just goes to show you that with the right mix of hardware and software, you can expect some incredible results. My battery life has also been quite good. Right now, I'm averaging about 6 hours of screen on time, and while that may not seem like the best, you have to understand that these devices use adaptive learning to kind of train the battery with your usage patterns, and over time, I only expect that to get better. And that 6 hours of screen on time is using the QHD Plus version of the display, and I'm not running the phone at full HD. So in my opinion, as of right now, it's pretty good, and I only hope for it to get better. Aside from that though, what are my impressions? Because specs are one thing, but I don't really like to attack smartphones like that. I have a pretty good approach to things when it comes to being a consumer. I feel like I'm somewhat sensible, and I feel like that's why some of you watch me. So far, I like this phone. Actually, I really like it. I'm gonna be using it for a little bit longer to kind of see if anything starts to fall through the cracks, but as of right now, it's been a pretty flawless experience. The things like the cell reception were a huge issue for me on the 14 Pro. I've had no issues when it comes to dead zones on this device in my condo. And in terms of bugs and just overall stability, I'm quite impressed because, according to the Pixel 6 launch, it was a nightmare. And when it comes to this phone, I haven't really seen too many people complaining about anything. But I'm giving Google the benefit of the doubt. I put my SIM card in this phone a little while ago, and I'm gonna continue to do that to just kind of see how it goes in my day-to-day. If you have any questions about the Pixel 7 Pro, feel free to ask them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer each and every one of you, but at the same time, I'll leave some of those questions for a more detailed review about this phone. Anyways, that's been it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like down below, subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.